stage is Brother Baba Lumumba from Umoja House right in Washington, D.C. Baba Lumumba, welcome back to WOL Radio.
Yeah, Bo, brother, thank you for having me back. It's an honor to be able to talk about our brother on his birthday, and I'm grateful for that honor. So thank you.
Well, we chose you to lead this discussion because we know you're very good at things like this. But I got to ask you, though, Baba Lumumba, what made Malcolm such a great leader? What was some of the qualities? Peter talked about his parents were Garveyites, so he had that sense of Pan-Africanism. But what about his other attributes?
Yeah, before I respond directly to that question, we just put out what we call Kuzaliwa. We call our celebration of Malcolm's birthday every year, we call Kuzaliwa, which is Swahili for happy birthday. So we do this birthday celebration for Malcolm every year. Every year we have a title, something that we work on, something that we talk about, that we try to do the work of Malcolm. Usually it's a one-day conference around a given topic. This year, because of the virus thing, we can't gather. So we put out a video. We did a video which addresses this issue that you just asked me, the issue of Malcolm's leadership. What made him such a good leader? So we have a number of our people, including Peter, including your last guest, Peter, on there, to talk about this issue, the qualities of Malcolm's leadership. We all recognize him as probably the greatest, if not one of the greatest leaders that black people have produced. When you look at all of these characters, all these qualities that he possessed. In fact, I would make the statement that Malcolm is, after 65 years after his death, he's still providing us leadership. He is still functioning as a leader in our community. When a young person reads his autobiography, they're inspired, they're transformed. So I would go on YouTube and look for Malcolm X leadership attributes, Kuzaliwa 2020. Malcolm X leadership attributes. We just put that up today. We want people to go to it, look at it, and you'll see us talking about it. You'll see Peter, you'll see myself, you'll see a number of leaders who are inspired, which allows you to go in and deal with this whole question of what made him such a great leader. Why is that important? I know, as Peter's mentioned, that we can produce other leaders, but if we don't understand the attributes of what, in fact, was one of our greatest leaders, if we haven't really looked at it, we haven't analyzed it, we haven't really looked at it closely and see, well, he had this, but he also had this. How does that do? How does the mix? What is the mix that produced a Malcolm? So that's what we try to look at, and that's what I of course want to talk about, and that's the little piece that I sent you, a draft of, that gets at this question. Some of the attributes are very obvious ones, his sincerity, his humility, his integrity, his intelligence, his ability to speak, his charisma. Those are the things that always get mentioned when we talk about Malcolm. But there are other things. There are other factors that are a little more subtle, that are a little more difficult to understand and to tease out. Also, I think the impact of his leadership is not fully talked about. Let me just mention this. If it wasn't for Malcolm X, we would not have had a Muhammad Ali. People realize that Muhammad Ali, who was in fact the most recognized human being on earth, who stood up when he was threatened with losing his title for not going to Vietnam and had the courage, was really was mentored by Malcolm X. When you look at the power of this man, look at what he gave us. A lot of the inspiration, you heard Peter talk about the SNCC people who sent people to New York, from Alabama, from Mississippi to New York to hear him speak. Because even if you didn't agree exactly with what his formula was and his message was, you knew that you were dealing with this profound leader, this person who everyone had to hear. Everyone had to incorporate what it is his truth was. His reality, his impact on you was so profound that you didn't necessarily have to agree with it to be affected by it, which is it's really a mark of a tremendous leader, somebody who you respect to the degree that even if you don't agree with them, you insist that they be heard. You listen to them. Now that's leadership. That's leadership at a profound level, leadership at an impressive level, leadership that we have never seen before, that we need to analyze, we need to look at closely, we need to examine, and we need to try, if possible, to impart those qualities to the next generation. So
and earlier, Baba Lumumba, we asked the question, well, why hasn't there been another Malcolm? And you can throw in Martin and Marcus as well. Why haven't we had another person?
Well, it's interesting because I'm 76 years old, and Peter, again, is a person who's kind of up in years. In order to have experienced Malcolm, to have worked with him or talked with him, you have to be kind of up in age. You have to be, So a lot of the question about what goes on is because what's going on around you. When I was coming up, we had, Martin was alive, Malcolm was alive. You had the Vietnamese War, you had the Cuban Revolution, you had all of these things going on. You had the Civil Rights Movement, you had, all kinds of impacting events, things that would be very difficult to avoid. Nowadays, it's easy to pretend like these things are not happening. But when I was coming along, during my era, the things that were going on around you were so profound, like the Vietnamese War, for example. You couldn't avoid that. Like the Cuban Revolution, you couldn't avoid that in terms of an impact. When Malcolm spoke, he was not somebody, given the time that you lived in, that you could avoid, So a lot of what happens, a lot of the development of leadership, a lot of the maturation, if you will, of the masses, whether people are ready to receive your message or even hear your message.
Right. Well, hold that thought right there, Baba Lumumba. We got to take a short break here. And when you come back, and tell us if it was the sign of the times that shaped Brother Malcolm, or was it himself, his own personality? I want you to explain the differences between that. 800-450-7876. Richardson, you're next to speak to our guest, Baba Lumumba, right here on 1450. WOL, where information is power.